You need to be able to attend very carefully to a writer's choice of words, also called diction. Now, whether you are answering um, contextual questions in a comprehension or in terms of a work of literature, whether you're doing visual literacy and literature such as novels and dramas, poetry, and all those genres, you will be asked questions on diction and the effectiveness of a certain word or certain words within a certain context. For instance, discuss the effect of certain words or contrasting words in the context. Now, the context can be in the context of the poem, in the context of the line, in the context of the paragraph, in the context of the stanza, in the context of the novel as a whole. You're going to have to read the question very well, but you're going to have to attend to the use of language, and you will be asked pertinent questions in that regard. An example, for instance, how effective is the diction in this passage? Then you know you're going to have to look at this passage, and you're going to have a look at the diction in general, and you're going to have to give comments on the diction in general in the passage. And you're going to have to substantiate why you're saying it is effective or it is not effective by referring to specific word choices. And you're going to put those words in inverted commas in the course of your answer. So let's have a look at diction for a moment, and we think about a few aspects regarding diction. What is diction? What is choice of words within a context? We must remember what a word does. Any word has connotations and denotations. It has meaning. The writer definitely wants to convey some kind of meaning with this word. As I said, whether it's denotative, connotative, or both, or whether there's a lot of suggestion, it very often also boils down to the tone that he wishes to convey. So he has a certain tone, and then he chooses a certain word to go with the tone that he's trying to convey. And in essence, in terms of writing, the choice of diction often makes a difference between whether it's good writing, excellent writing, or mediocre writing. And the same goes, of course, for your own writing of essays and transactional pieces. You're going to have to ask yourself a few questions about the diction if you want to comment on it. You're going to ask yourself, is the word accurate in terms of, remember we said, in terms of the meaning that the writer wishes to convey? Is it an accurate word? Does it actually convey that meaning that the author wants to convey? Is it appropriate to the context? Does it go with the context, or does it stand out and you think, why is this word here? And if it does stand out, for instance, in a poem, there's a word that jumps out at you that you think, well, this is an inappropriate word in the context, isn't it? Very often those words are chosen for a very good reason, and they're supposed to stand out, and you're supposed to think about it. So think about it being appropriate to the context. Is it easily understood, or does it obscure the writing? Is it overly flowery, or is it a bit too highfalutin for the context? Is it easily understood? Can you actually understand what it says? And then, of course, we've talked about tone, and we know that the tone of a passage influences the reader, and it affects the reader, and it contributes to a certain mood of a text. Right. So, to look at a few examples here. If the writer wishes to convey a professional tone, It might even make use of jargon and formal language, for instance. Just a quick example: certain medications can cause or worsen nasal systems, especially congestion. These include the following: birth control pills, some drugs for high blood pressure, e.g., alpha blockers and beta blockers, antidepressants. Can you see that these words are all words that will be used by somebody giving medical information? So it's a lot of medical jargon used. But then, of course, it's appropriate to the context, isn't it so? So another one, and if the person wants an informative tone, they want to inform you about something, about research that's been done. Let's have a look at this. Physical punishment at school has been associated with aggression against teachers and with vandalism against school property. By conveying the message that physical aggression is an appropriate means of resolving conflict, physical violence may promote adolescent aggression and destructive behavior. Once again, we see a lot of jargon, and it's psychological jargon. They want to convey a certain message about um, school and punishment in school and how it affects the learners psychologically. So they're using psychological jargon, and it's appropriate. When you look at poetry, for instance, there's a wide range of tones that an author might want to convey, and it does influence the diction that he or she uses. So, for instance, if we look at James Kirkup's poem "Rugby League Game," um, we see that he's making fun, he's mocking older people who think they can still look young by putting on rugby clothes and running on the field and pretending to be young rugby players when actually they look pathetic. That is the opinion of the writer. So look at the choice of words. He says sport is absurd. It is sad. Can you see that those words, that they accurately convey the tone that the writer wants to bring across? It's so absurd. It's so sad. Shame, because they don't know what they're doing. So they are grown men. Look at them. Look at, just look. He invites the reader in. Says, just look at them. I'm inviting you to think of these men. Come with me. Let's look at them running around on the field. They are wearing dreary long blue shorts. They are wearing ringed stockings. That's out of fashion. It is almost Edwardian. It's so old fashioned. And here they are running around like young men. They have balding pates. They're not young anymore. They don't even have hair anymore. And they have fat knees. Think of the athletic knees of young rugby players. They're athletic build, but fat knees, sagging and fat. And that those knees ought to be heroes' knees. Can you see that the words used very, very effectively conveys the writer's tone, how he feels about these people. And he has this very cynical, mocking and cynical and sardonic tone that he tries to convey to the reader very effectively. Then some more a choice of diction to give us another idea of how diction works. Here we have first day after the war, and we see the reaction of the people after having been declared free after the elections and how they celebrated. And so we have a celebratory tone, we have a rejoicing tone. And we see that there was a very, very pungent feeling of freedom, of a limitless future. So let's have a look. So look at without waiting, how it captures their eagerness to start celebrating, right? And how they ran. It's a very simple word, but it says what they just started running. Where did they run to? To open spaces. Look at the connotations of freedom, of the sky is the limit for us now, right? And they are ululating. It is a typical word used to express African pride. It is something that they would do at the time. But look at ululating, and also the onomatopoeic sound of it, uh, suggesting the feelings of rejoicing and pride and so forth. Where did they go? To the mountains and the pathways. In other words, it was not a single place where they didn't run to because they felt so free, as though the whole country now belongs to them. But not only the country, look at all the circles of the earth and who they were calling out here from their own country that now they felt belonged to them. They wanted the whole world to know, all the circles of the world to know. They were calling out to them to tell them about this wonderful freedom that they now feel. Then we're going to look at another example from the novel Tsotsi to show you how words can create a certain feeling, a certain tone, and so on. So we're going to look at a certain passage here where, once again, Toti is looking at the baby and he's looking at his features, etc. So he opened the box, right? And he now looks at this baby. A foul, acrid smell rose up from the box. Could you place yourself now within that room? This baby's been sitting in this box for how long? And it's been doing what babies do. And it's this sour um, smell that sort of filled the air. But please note that it says he didn't notice it. He didn't notice. That is something that's very hard not to notice. It's overwhelming if you've ever smelt it. So it's overwhelming, but he didn't notice it. Why? Because for a moment he was again awed by what he saw. This was a man. This small, almost ancient, very useless and abandoned thing was the beginning of a man. It had legs and arms. Note how he uses it, because to him, at the moment, this baby is still a it. It's not quite a person yet. Look how he uses the foul, acrid smell, how he contrasts that with him being awed by seeing that this is a human being. It is a man. It is the beginning of a man. It had legs and arms. You could associate with this as a fellow human being. So all these negative connotations of the foul smell is cancelled out by his awe of the baby. And then what this, just the use of words can tell us about what's happening in the story, about the context, about the character, etc. So we look at his reverence for the mystery of life. Now this is totally out of character for Tsotsi. He's a hardened man. He's a criminal. And it's in stark contrast to his former disrespect for people in general. Now he sees something who is potentially a human being, something sacred. So can you see the contrast there, how that brings it out? So suddenly he's becoming aware of humanity. And it goes on to say a head and a body. But even when he allowed for that, you could still not see how this would one day straighten out, smooth, and shape into manhood. Even asleep, its face was cross-grained with complaint. So he was once again forced back to reality here. This child's face was cross-grained with complaint. This child is hungry. This child is not feeling comfortable. There's something wrong. So you can see the cross-grained with complaint. It was complaining. It wanted food. And then he says the head was misshapen. Now look at connotations here. We talked about words having denotations and connotations. The head was misshapen. It does not mean that he's saying this child is misshapen, this child is somehow crippled in a way. It's not what he's saying. The misshapen head here actually suggests to us that this is a newborn child. The head was still misshapen from the birth process. So it was really a newborn. But then look at how he sees that this little newborn is going to become a man, a big person. and the head looked more like an egg. So, choice of words can just give us the idea about what this baby looked like and how he felt about it. So, once again, we're going to see how he contrasts. He talks about the misshapen head, which suggests to us that this is still a newborn baby. He also says that it is useless. It looks like a useless little creature that's lying here because it's just lying there, crying for food and crying for attention. That the face looked ancient to him. So, can you see how he contrasts the misshapen, the newborn, with that his face looked ancient? It looked cross grained with complaint. So, in other words, already he could see like the future of this child, of becoming a man, becoming a person with problems, etc. So, look how cross grained with complaint, how it links with ancient, right? An ancient looking face. Um, the baby's face was wrinkled with moaning because it was hungry, but how it seemed old. And remember that this baby is going to teach Tsotsi lessons about life. So it seems old in its capacity to teach Tsotsi lessons about love. Because in this baby, um, there was a potential of a human being taking Tsotsi out of a certain way of living and changing his course altogether. So, a very accurate choice of words here. And you have to start becoming very aware of how writers choose their words.